Welcome to Book Talk for Book Talk with Jack and Amy, your besties with a literary podcast that deep dives into your favorite novels. This is Jack.
And I'm Amy. And today's episode is going to be different. Over the weekend of January 24th, Alex Pretti was murdered on the street in Minneapolis while being beaten by 6 ICE agents. This comes shortly after the murder of Renee Nicole Good, also in Minnesota. There are 7 others who've also been murdered by ICE around the country. The horrific actions of ICE and their brutal actions tearing apart families and sending innocent men, women, and children to ICE centers is unacceptable.
Today we're interviewing Victoria, owner of Comma Bookshop of Minneapolis, who is an active member of the Minnesota community and is helping protesters and various charities. We feel it is important that we use our platform to raise awareness of what is happening and how we can help. Today's conversation will include topics of murder, sexual assault, and physical assault. Listener discretion is advised. Welcome, Victoria.
Welcome.
Hi.
Thank you so much for coming on and just being so great and responsive on Instagram, because that's where we connected. Actually, one of my friends sent one of your videos and she was just like, hey, there's this bookshop that is doing a lot right now for Minnesota, Minneapolis. She was like, you guys should do something. And I was like, say less.
Well, thank you. Thank you to her for that too. That's what's been really heartening, is to see people from around the country and around the world a little bit really tuning in through the bookish community about what's happening in Minnesota.
Yeah. The bookish community is like, sometimes it annoys me. Sometimes like we really rally, and boy golly, are we rallying. I mean, even this weekend, and you've done this before, but on Saturday, the 24th, you had 50% of profits for that day. You're donating to Unidos, right?
Yes. Yeah. And, we actually started doing that. And every time we do this, I think to myself, like, how are we doing this again? Why are we doing this again? Not why are we doing it? Why are we having to do it? The first time we did this was a flash decision on the day that a speaker, Melissa Hortman, was murdered in Minnesota. And then we did it again at the end of the summer when the shooting at Annunciation Catholic School happened. I can't believe that we're doing this. This is the 5th time now we've done it in less than a year, and we'll keep doing it. But
wow,
I wish we could stop.
Yeah, same. Absolutely. I mean, everyone who's listening hopefully understands what's going on. Absolutely horrific things are happening all over the country, but right now a lot of the focus is in Minnesota and Minneapolis, and your store is located in Minneapolis. Can you tell us a little bit of what you're seeing, of what's going on there, for, a little bit more boots on the ground? Because I'm looking on TikTok. I'm watching any video I can possibly get.
I mean, I'll tell you, I think the thing that is really powerful about social media right now is that we are able to see so much more than we could see otherwise, right? And that's what makes this different from other times that I've experienced. You know what? I haven't experienced anything like this, but I'm grateful for social media, because even just yesterday with the murder of Alex Pretti, sorry, I'm getting choked up. But the first video that came out was from across the street inside a donut shop. But then there were other videos that showed different angles that showed very clearly what happened. So anyway, I just don't denigrate what you're seeing. That's where we're able to see what's really happening, is just from observers on the ground. And I will say, I'll get to your question.
No,
about
keep going. I mean, can we all just agree that we're going to cry today? Can we just get that off the board? Okay, cool.
Thank you for being the first to do it. So that
I'm happy to do it. That video is all over social media, and I have very mixed feelings about it, because I hate that people stumble onto trauma. It's something that we shouldn't have to see. I hate that I saw a man be murdered in 5 different angles, but it's also the kind of thing where it needed to be seen, because immediately after, the administration starts saying, well, he was threatening, he had a gun, he had his gun out, he was violent, he was attacking them. And we can see that he was beaten by 6 different ICE agents. We can hear them clap after. I mean, the same thing with Renee Good. We could hear one of them call her a fucking bitch. I hate that I saw it. I hate that I, once again, saw someone be murdered online. But if we didn't have those people recording, which is all he was doing, was recording, and then was helping a woman who was being maced. And if we didn't have people like Alex and people out there recording, we would not know the truth.
Right. That's what I've been thinking about too, is that the woman in pink who was recording that everybody could see on that first video that came out, and Alex were trained observers. And that is something remarkable that's happening in Minneapolis right now, is the powerful organizing that's resulting in thousands of people being trained to do this, and the rapid response networks that are getting people within minutes out when there's confirmed ICE activity. So I agree. Of course, I wish that we hadn't all had to see that. And I'm incredibly grateful that we did, because at this point, I don't trust that we would see it otherwise.
Yeah. And I love that people are being trained to be observers. You know, for so long, I always had a very negative perception of people who film things for social media.
Right.
Regardless of whether or not it's capturing truth, it was always like, well, why aren't you helping? But knowing that these people are trained to do exactly that, to be bystanders, to capture truth, and to be present for what is happening is really powerful and gives us hopefully the future opportunity to hold people accountable.
Right. Yes. The future opportunity to hold people accountable legally, and the immediate opportunity to provide support and care.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I know there's each time a horrific murder happens, I know GoFundMe's are set up. I know different charities come out in full force. I know it brings more people to donate to charities and to go and give. So, I mean, it's one of those where none of these deaths should ever have happened, but the community is not going to let it go to waste. It's not going to let it happen. And I'm really happy you did mention that, Amy, because I didn't realize that too. Like, I was like, yeah, I used to always be like, why aren't people going and helping? And it's so dangerous to help. And it's so dangerous now to observe. And anyone who is out there observing and training is doing an incredible job.
How we first got involved with doing anything was distributing whistles. And the whistles have become both a sign of resistance, but an actual tool of resistance.
I've seen that. Can you explain what the whistles are, what they're used for?
Yeah. So we and many, many other bookstores and businesses and community organizations and individuals have been distributing whistles far and wide, as many as we can. We're doing hundreds a day. And the whistles are used by observers, by folks who might be targeted, to indicate, one, if ICE is present. You can let folks know that ICE is in the neighborhood, so to protect yourselves. And then also to let folks know if an abduction is actively taking place, to call help. So to call observers, to call medics, etc. And so that was the very first thing that we started doing before we started fundraising, which is what we're doing a lot of right now. And someone asked me at some point about, do you think that the whistle has really taken off because it's something that's easy for people to do? And yes and no. I'll say yes, because it is easy to walk into my store and pick up a free whistle and have it on you. And no, because using the whistle makes you vulnerable.
Yeah.
And so it is brave for anybody who's doing that. And I think there's something really powerful about taking a whistle, because there's some, there's just that psychology that taking one step makes you more likely to take another step. And if you find yourself with a whistle and seeing something happen, like you feel like you've obligated yourself to do something. And so just getting it into the hands of as many people as we can across the city is providing a little bit of support for those individual good actions, and then a lot of support when folks use the whistle and activate the networks of people who are there to help.
Yeah, it's, as you were saying that, it reminds me of, for example, people who are trained in CPR. If they see something and someone needs resuscitation, like, they have an obligation. Now, having a whistle does not come with that same legal obligation, but a moral and psychological obligation. I could see, I've committed myself to wielding this if it's necessary.
So what you said just makes me think of a story that someone that I know very well told me about something that happened last week. And that was that she was out, she was walking her dog, she was wearing a whistle, and she saw a vehicle that she suspected might be ICE. It was an out-of-state vehicle with plates that weren't recognizable, and people inside wearing tactical gear. And she felt frightened, because this is a person, a white woman who would not be targeted, but she was wearing a whistle. So she was visibly in opposition to ICE. And she felt personally afraid. But because she had taken the training, because she was wearing the whistle, she kind of thought to herself, well, this is what it's for. I have to take action here. And so she did. She blew the whistle and called folks. And she was also connected to Rapid Response Network. So she was able to quickly confirm that it was ICE and so on. But that's exactly what I hope for with when folks take a whistle, right? Is that it's that little bit of like a first step. So even if you're new to doing this kind of work, you can start to get involved.
What I also love about the whistle is that if I were to see something, I don't know what I would yell out. Right? Like ICE, like, you know what I mean? Like what do you yell? What is the thing? How do you get attention? I think that solves it very quickly, right? Like you're getting attention and people are starting to understand in Minnesota, and hopefully, you know, we pick that up around the rest of the country of this is happening, get attention. And it takes away the panic of like, what do you do?
What do I do? Right.
Yeah. What do you say? What do you do? And you know, all you have to do is blow the whistle. And I really applaud your friend because that is scary. It is a very clear sign of opposition, right? And I think one of the biggest shifts of what I'm seeing, and even, you know, with Renee and with Alex, but like with everything, is the video aspect of it, where this is what they're willing to do on camera.
Right.
Like there's not even an inch of fear of what's happening. We live in LA. And so we were we were like the first round of everything. And it was very hard. I'm half Chilean. A lot of the neighborhoods that they hit were some of the neighborhoods that my earliest memories were in. And I just remember thinking like, okay, I would see videos of people recording and it's like, well, that's what I would do, would be recording. I didn't realize there was a sense of safety that I thought I had by doing that. And now that that's kind of been taken away, the whistle is a good first step. But I also applaud anyone who does whistle because that is a scary step to take.
Yeah, right. Right. Overall, that's what I want people to know. I want to affirm that they are doing something. When they take a whistle, that is a first step that's important. Taking a whistle is easy. Using a whistle is hard. And so anybody who does is a hero.
I completely agree.
So first of all, I should say that I'm not an expert. I'm not a leader. All I'm doing is using the resources that my store has to get money and help where it belongs. And I want to specifically say that, Minnesota is incredibly well organized. We have a deep history of community organizing, of neighborhood connectedness, and so on. And we got to learn from LA and Chicago and places that have been experiencing ICE invasions for years and years.
What I really appreciate is that Minnesota learned from what has occurred in other places instead of saying, that's never going to happen here. Right? And being not complacent, but just like, it's not my responsibility to think about that. Instead, you really have mobilized in a way that I think is remarkable, and I have a hard time imagining possible in a place like LA, but I'm sure it's possible if we tried hard enough.
But it starts with small businesses, right? Like not just small businesses, but like the person, the individual. Like you say that you're not a leader, but I feel like in moments like these, it's a bunch of not leaders doing something.
Yes.
It's a bunch of people who are taking initiative and action. So I view you as a leader. I think you're great, but it's just a lot of people who take initiative. And, there are people who are very organized and luckily are handling the like high level organization that I could not do. A lot of small movements create huge steps. And Amy's partner is from Minnesota. And like this entire weekend, we're like, how are you doing? And she just talks about like how great Minnesota is. And like every time we meet someone who's like from Minnesota, like you can tell.
Oh, yeah, we're always like that. You've probably seen some of these things on threads or social that people saying, and it is very true. Like there's nothing Minnesota loves more than talking about how awesome Minnesota is. And it's going to be completely insufferable from now on.
Yeah.
It already was probably.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's my partner. She's like, my first tattoo must be an ode to Minnesota.
Was it? Okay. Was it a Minnesota tattoo?
Yeah, it's a dove crying. So Prince is in Minnesota.
Minnesota is also like great with symbolism because we didn't know about the monarch butterfly until she told us about it, and how the monarch butterfly migrates from Minnesota to Mexico, right? Oh my God. And that's kind of become a number. I was like, I love symbolism and I like, that's beautiful. And I also didn't realize how diverse Minnesota was, like Minneapolis and the various communities, and, just the attitude of you live here, you're one of our own and we take care of our own.
Yeah. Minnesota has a long history of being a placement location for refugees. So very specifically, refugee communities have been coming to Minnesota, and some have then become really large community centers for, deep as well, but that's not what I meant. Some of that has meant that, right, we have a large Somali population in Minneapolis, in St. Paul across the river, a large Hmong population. And so that has been true. I will say that I love seeing this claiming of all of our neighbors, as each other's neighbors as Minnesotans. And I'm guessing that is not their everyday experience necessarily, right? Minnesota is not a utopia of equality and perfect care and empathy. It's also a place that has some of the largest economic disparities and geographic disparities and so on. So, Minnesotans can puff ourselves up, and there's a lot to be proud of, but it's,
there's no perfect utopia. And like, even with all of this, like if everything was magically resolved tomorrow, there would still be a lot more work to be done. Like it doesn't, I think it's just like LA is just so big. We got a lot of people, but it's just so big.
So we know that through your fundraising, you're providing money to Unidos, which is one great organization, but there are many great organizations out there. And I think for someone who is exterior to the community, it can be scary to donate because you don't know which is the better organization to donate to. So why are you donating to Unidos? And, why should we potentially encourage folks to consider that foundation?
So 2 things. Unidos is really doing work in a lot of different directions, and that is why we're choosing to support them. So one is they are the organization behind a website and phone number called Monarca, Minnesota, and that was the very initial ICE reporting line. So they have been really driving a lot of their rapid response work. They also, their fundamental work is about building power to change Minnesota for the better for all of us. And so they are continuing to do that. They were one of the organizers of the general strike on Friday, the 23rd. They're one of the organizers of many of the public actions and events. So I support them myself, and we're supporting them through the store because they're doing both the long-term movement building that is going to be necessary and the immediate on-the-ground help right now. Like literally right this second, here's where you call to get help.
Yeah, that's amazing.
I think there's some, not confusion or just not enough awareness of what immediate help, like why people need immediate help. And it's more than just like helping, bring water to protesters. Like there are people who can't go to work because they're afraid. There are people who can't go to the grocery store because they might be taken. There's a lot of people whose lives have been disrupted by this, obviously, but in a more immediate way that's beyond just they could get deported. It's just, and at this point, human trafficked to another part of the country. I think immediate relief is not something that people think about. And I know I did it until I saw someone like breaking it down for me, where I was like, because like, again, here in LA, it's hot. So it's like, immediate relief, water, like we bring water, but it's so much more than that.
Yeah. And, I'll say the same thing, that when Renee Good was initially killed and I was thinking about what fundraising to do, my initial thought was this sort of like movement building or immigration law and so on. And that's important. And I think that's one message that I'm trying to say to everybody is that there are endless needs. And so you just find what it is that you want to personally make your contribution to, what kind of work, and put it there. But I will say I too got like my attention pulled to mutual aid, right? Like directly funding people who can't go to work, whose families can't go to work, whose kids can't go to school. So we initially last weekend, we fundraised for an organization called Centro Tyrone Guzman that has been providing direct support to families that are unable to go to work because they're in fear for their lives from ICE. And they're buying groceries through Mexican grocery stores and then delivering them to families. So we've done that. And then also small businesses, that immigrant-owned businesses, in particular restaurants. Those restaurants, their staff aren't able to come to work safely, and their customers aren't able to come spend money. So we've also done giveaways of gift cards to these small businesses. Gift cards, because that gets money to them right now without having to actually be open and serve if they can.
That's incredible. That's really smart. Is there a place to find these restaurants? Like, I don't know. I mean,
no. Okay, so
there's just so many people to support. Like, there's just so many communities I want to bring. It's hard. It's hard not being a billionaire.
That's what we need, though. I mean, no joke, right? Like, what we need is the millionaires and billionaires to be putting the money on, right? That's what we need. We, the normal people, are doing the work. We need the folks who have those vast resources to do it too. But yes, how to find out about where to give. There's a website that's a clearinghouse. It's called standwithminnesota.com. I'm sure you've seen that going around. That was created by a woman who is a longtime trusted organizer in the Twin Cities. She lives in Texas now, but she is still very connected. And she and some volunteers have been vetting all of the organizations that are submitted as recommendations. Nice. They also have links to mutual aid funds. They're not vetting the mutual aid funds because it's not possible. There's no safe way to try and you don't want to be trying to track down folks who need that kind of aid.
Right.
I don't think that includes businesses right now. That might be something that she'd consider. We've been sort of, just trying to highlight some. I shared some last week of 5 of my favorite immigrant-owned restaurants. I don't know of a great centralized resource for that right now. And I'll tell you what I'm thinking about right now is the block where Alex was murdered is on a street called, the street is called Nicollet Avenue, but it's called colloquially Eat Street. And it's like a mile-long stretch of immigrant-owned restaurants from around the world. As of last night, I haven't actually looked at the news yet this morning. As of last night, the city had created checkpoint barricades around the neighborhood. I don't know what that means in terms of those businesses being able to be open, customers being able to get there. So something I want to try to figure out, and there's people on the ground who know more than me, so I'm just going to be figuring out who knows what to do here, is how can we support those businesses that are right there and that literally can't operate.
Yeah, I hadn't even thought of that. You have the businesses where that would have been immediately in that immediate vicinity. Because I mean, and again, it's so hard just trying to get reports because there's a clear attempt to block what's going out in the media, seeing reports of how ICE was stopping the police from trying to preserve the crime scene.
Yes. And
trying to stop them from, just investigating. Of course, then that means that entire area would be blocked off because it's a crime scene. Like you said, who knows what it could even begin to mean. It's scary. And I know for a lot of people, they want to give. And, Amy and I were talking about we wish that we could give so much more. And it's hard, but for anyone who's listening who feel like they can't give or they just can't, they don't have the money, they don't live in the country, there are other ways to support. And social media is one of those moments where we can use this for good and you can support without giving anything. And do you have any recommendations on that? I mean, I have in my head, I'm I can list all the things, but I know you've also been encouraging people on Comma Bookshop's socials on what people can do.
Yeah. And that's what I mean when I said earlier about all Comma is doing is using the resources that we have. And I really believe so much in that. And that if there's one message that I want to get out there is think about what resources you personally have that others might not. And so, for a lot of us, it might be some money. For some of us, it might be something different. I don't know. But for anybody on social media, it's your platform, whether that's your 50 friends who follow you or 700,000 followers because you're a big brand or something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So what all of us can do is share what we learn, share the social accounts of vetted organizations that are doing work on the ground here, restaurants and other businesses to support and so on. So then, I mean, if you're not able to give money, you can always, right, comment, share, save when other folks are asking for that support, because you know more about the algorithm than I do.
Yeah, but commenting helps. It boosts.
Commenting,
People don't have, if you're too afraid to share it on your own personal, and some people might be afraid and they might not be able to because of, whoever they're connected to. But like you said, liking a post, commenting, saving it, that helps the algorithm show that people are interested in it. That is the least that anyone can do, is like anything that they're seeing that has to do with that. Comment, thumbs up,
Yeah. I mean, in the world of social media, engagement is currency. And if you don't have actual money to spend your engagement and your time on your app engaging in the content that can amplify the voices that need to be amplified.
Yes. And I'll say, I said the most important thing is using the resources you have, but I should actually back that up, because the most important thing is to make sure that you're connected with your community.
Yeah.
Earlier we were talking about, how Minnesota has been able to pull together this resistance, and we learned from other cities. But also Minneapolis is where George Floyd was murdered. And the community networks, the activism, the mutual aid networks that were born from that are still active and working now. It's also, Minneapolis is home to many of the leaders of the American Indian movement, to leaders from Black Lives Matter. Black and brown communities, immigrant communities, Native and Indigenous communities are leading this organizing. That is also happening wherever you and your listeners are. I don't know anything about LA, but I do know that's happening, right? Like, there's activists, there's leaders that are doing the work and have been. So I was just talking with other bookstore owners around the country and saying, like, okay, so the very first thing you should do right now is, get to know your neighbors, just like the people and businesses and organizations that are, in your few blocks, because that is what has been for us. So I want to also be clear is that my store has not been directly impacted. Right? Like, we have not had an ICE raid. ICE has been in our neighborhood. They have not been to our store. I'm personally not threatened. Nevertheless, it's important for all of us to know who our neighbors are, know who our community is. So that's actually the first thing. That's the most important that anybody can do is get to know your personal neighbors, the people on your block, but also then the organizers in your community. Like, who is it who's going to be with you when this happens?
Yeah.
That's such a good point. It's critical because we don't know where they're going to go next, and we don't know what's going to happen, and we don't know whether it's ICE or other injustices. Like you were saying, your friend noticed a car and was like, "That's not right. That's not a car I know." You don't know that unless you know your community, your area, your neighbors. So no, thank you for that. It's a great reminder. And I hope that again, these small steps are small steps that everyone's taking. If we all do that, if we all get to know the small businesses, our neighbors, and so just getting to know that, then it'll help.
I mean, it makes life better in the meantime, right? And then that's the network that you can activate when your community needs it.
We're going to make sure that we are going to list Unidos, Stand with Minnesota, and the Women's Foundation also that we were talking about. We'll have that listed in the comments. We are hosting another giveaway from books that we purchased from your shop on the day that you're donating funds. The giveaway is all people have to do is follow Unidos and the Women's Foundation Minnesota.
Wonderful.
That's the goal there. And we really hope that people, again, I know you say you're not a leader, but you share such amazing resources. Where can people find you on social?
Our socials on all of the social profiles are Comma Bookshop.
I highly recommend people follow, not only is it an amazing bookshop with great selections, and we should support indie bookstores, but you do share great resources. And I love knowing that anyone should support a business that is doing good in the community.
Can I shout out some other bookstores?
Of course.
I mean, honestly, when people on social have been asking about what other bookstores in the Twin Cities have been active, I would say I think all of them. So, there's 37, or there were 37 last year, bookstores in the Twin Cities Metro. There's more now. From what I've observed, it's everybody. But I specifically want to call out 3. So one is Moon Palace Books. They're in Minneapolis as well. They are very close to where George Floyd was murdered and immediately next door to the police station that was burned during the protests after George Floyd. They have been, before that, but absolutely since then, a center of organizing and resistance. So that is who we learn from, is Moon Palace Books. Black Garnet Books is a Black-owned bookstore in St. Paul, in a highly affected part of St. Paul. St. Paul is across the river from Minneapolis and hasn't been getting as much attention as Minneapolis nationally, but it's right here. It's happening in St. Paul as well as in Minneapolis. Black Garnet is a Black-owned business, and they curate books and sell books by Black and brown and Indigenous authors and illustrators. And then I love to shout out our neighbors. So we're in a neighborhood around the corner from a magical kids bookstore called Wild Rumpus.
No,
I don't have kids, and I still love going there. It's just beautiful, and it creates beautiful, safe place for kiddos during all of this. It's also a business that's employee owned. They've inspired us all along as well. I don't want to not call out anybody because all of the bookstores are doing amazing work, but those are 3 that I just want to highlight.
We will list them. Thank you. We'll make sure to tag and post them on our socials and share what we can and follow them. And again, like anything to the listener, your time online is currency. So support these bookstores, support all of the bookstores, support your community, Minneapolis, St. Paul. Wait, what's the other city?
St. Paul.
Minneapolis and St. Paul. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Like, that's a cathedral, right? That's not the right one. Okay, that's a different one. Thank you for your time and for educating us and for sharing what's going on. Very much appreciate it. And I hope that our listeners, I don't want to be like, share this episode, just share the resources. And that's the most important thing. And we're going to continue to try to share the resources that we can.
Thank you. One more thing that I'll say, if I can, is we've had so much support from folks out of state who have made orders to support our donation days and so on. And we're so grateful for that. We've also, as a result of that, had a lot of people reaching out and asking us if they can donate to us. And the answer is no, and it will be no, that if you have money to give it to one of the places that you're going to feature or that are featured on standwithminnesota.com. Mm-hmm. That we're so grateful and overwhelmed by the idea that people want to send money to us, but we are not who needs it. Please send your money to the folks who are impacted.
Thank you so much for your time. We'll be following and keeping track, and I hope you never have to do another 50% off day.
Thank
or
you.
50% fundraising.
Or not off, 50% off, 50% donating. But thank you.
Thank you. I didn't even register as different. Yes.
I know, right? I was like, yeah.
That's fair.
Thank you for your time, and see you online.
Thank you so much. Thanks to everybody who's doing what they can to support from out of state.
Bye.
Bye.